financial year. Addressing the media at KMTC headquarters in Nairobi, the institution's chief executive officer, Dr. Kelly Oluoch, confirmed that KMTC is also leveraging partnerships to continue offering special training programs targeting undeserved regions, particularly in arid and semi-arid counties with health indicators remaining poor. Now, Dr. Oluoch added that KMTC is scaling up training, expanding access and aligning its program to both local and global demand, even as concerns grow over increasing brain drain of Kenyan health workers and emerging questions about whether the county is training enough personnel to sustain ongoing health sector reforms, including the universal health coverage.
So today, we want to tell the country that we have more than nursing, clinical medicine or pharmacy at KMTC. Kenya Medical Training College has 92 campuses and 6 satellite campuses that are spread all over the country. And therefore, our applicants have a wide range of campuses where they can choose to learn from. His Excellency the President gave a directive that the students of Kenya Medical Training College be able to access HELB, and that process is already at Treasury, and we believe that we are going to allow our students, all of them, to be able to apply for HELB like any other student in the Republic of Kenya and be able to access opportunities. We believe that with the new financial year, that will be possible.
Now, learning in a Gingo Mixed Secondary School in Suba South constituency, Homa Bay County, was disrupted after parents protested against alleged mismanagement and poor academic performance. The parents blocked the school gate, forcing Principal Oma Onyago to stay away for his safety. The parents accused him of misusing school resources, delivering poor results and lowering education standards. The parents are now calling on the Teachers Service Commission (TSC) to transfer the principal to allow reforms. The angry parents also complained about the dismissal of local support staff, which has affected livelihoods, and the unscrupulous collection of 7,000 shillings from parents under unclear circumstances. However, the principal dismissed the claims as malicious and maintained that he had improved learning conditions during his 2-year tenure. This as Curriculum Support Officer for Kakasingiri Division, Lydia Aginya, called for calm, assuring stakeholders that the Ministry of Education is addressing the matter.
Tuko na senior teacher, haelewi shule inaendelea namna gani. Tuko na deputy principal, hata alimtokeza mpaka akatoka mwenyewe akaenda kwa shule nyingine. Sasa ndio principal, ndio deputy, ndio senior teacher, ndio kila kitu. Kwa hivyo tumechoka na yeye. Tafadhali tunaomba huyu mtu angatushwe.
Your grievances have been heard. They have been received. They were written, they have been received, and therefore I want to assure you that our director is going to take action. Let us not demonstrate now.
Now, a joint council of elders has vowed to unite in a bid to reclaim a disputed 58-acre piece of land in Githunguri. The elders claim the land, which they say holds historical significance, is being earmarked for an affordable housing project without their consent. Speaking during a meeting, the leaders criticized local leadership over what they termed as interference with the land. They said they will pursue the matter through the courts following orders that halted the proposed project. The elders also called for unity among community members as the legal process continues.
Kuna msimamo wa siasa wako naye, wa dini ama nini, ni kushikana pamoja kwa sababu ya ile kikao ama ile shamba, wanajua mahali limetoka. Wamefungua mazungumzo na wengine ambayo wangetaka hiyo maneno irekebishwe na ikuwe vile inahitajika. Kwa hivyo mimi siwezi kataa na wazee vile wamesema.
Tuko hapa tumesimama na tumeshikana vizuri, tukiwa jamii moja na tukiwa mtu mmoja kama jamii ya Wakikuyu mahali popote wako.
Hiyo ardhi 58 eka ihifadhiwe kama ilivyo na makaratasi yote iandikishwe hivyo. Ile kitu tunataka ni ikubalike ni ya jamii ya Agikuyu, na ile kitu tunataka ikubalike ni kwamba ni ya kutumika na jamii yetu yote.
Health stakeholders in Samburu County have raised concerns of a possible increase in HIV/AIDS infections, particularly among young people. This comes as a new data from the National Syndemic Disease Control Council indicates that 40% of youth aged between 10 to 24 years are at the risk of infection. Speaking during a youth sports event organized by the Samburu County government, County Coordinator Wario Boru warned that infection rates could rise if urgent interventions are not implemented. Meanwhile, youth in the county are now calling on the Samburu County government and relevant stakeholders to accelerate awareness campaigns to further reduce the spread of the virus.
Kwa sababu hiyo 40% ni vijana wetu. Kila mmoja wao 1, 2, 3 mpaka 40. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha ya kwamba ndio ukaona ya kwamba gatuzi letu la Samburu ikishirikiana na washikadau kama NSDDC tumeonelea ya kwamba itakuwa muhimu kuhakikisha ya kwamba tunahamasisha vijana wetu hawa.
Tumekuja kujumuika na kupatana na county government kwa hamasisha wananchi wa Samburu kuhusu virusi vya HIV and what we call the triple threat. Triple threat focuses maambukizi mapya ya virusi vya HIV. Pia inaangazia mimba ya utotoni na dhuluma ya kijinsia.
Kama vijana wa Samburu tumekuja pamoja kucheza game na pia tumehamasishwa kuhusu ukimwi. So sisi kama vijana tutajikinga na kuepusha kupata ukimwi.
Now, victims of the Mai Mahiu flood tragedy are yet to relocate to their new homes months after the government allocated land for resettlement. The families say lack of funds has delayed construction of houses, forcing them to remain in temporary conditions. Local leaders, including members of the Kikuyu Council of Elders, have called on the government to fast-track compensation and support full resettlement. They also want authorities to consider victims who are tenants and have yet to receive land. Affected residents say the delays have prolonged their economic hardships since the disaster that claimed dozens of lives.
Hata serikali pia iweze kujitokeza iwafidie kidogo na kuwapa mali waweze wale ambao wameshindwa kabisa waweze kujenga.
Iko wengine pasenti kubwa ipata mashamba, lakini wale hawajapata, tunaomba serikali iwafadhili wapate shamba.
Hawaja ni kutoka 100 na wale ambao hawajakushughulikiwa hajatuhudumiwa katika hilo jambo ni kutoka 100 na tunaomba serikali shughulikie jambo hilo ili ya kwamba kila mtu awe ameridhika.
Hakuna maji, lakini walitupromise watatuletea social amenities kama maji, stima na shule, lakini bado, na pia tunawaomba kama watatutengenezea njia kwa hizo shamba. Juu hakuna njia ya kuaccess hiyo shamba, hakuna njia mzuri ya kuaccess hiyo shamba.
Residents of Athiriva in Machakos County have turned to bamboo planting as a sustainable solution to combat years of pollution and environmental degradation. Residents say the concerted effort will revive the ailing River Athi, which is struggling under the weight of increasing environmental pressures. Environment experts estimate that over 60% of wastewater from urban and industrial sources in the Upper Athi Basin is discharged with minimal treatment, as a result compromising water quality, affecting aquatic life and posing a health risk to communities that depend on the river for agriculture and daily needs.
Enforcers of those companies who are polluting along the river, the NEMA and the county government of Machakos, they continue supporting our initiative in terms of enforcement, because we are facing a lot of challenges.
The county government of Machakos is intensifying efforts to curb encroachment on riparian land and waterways, which are key drivers of flooding and displacement. Speaking during a fact-finding mission in Githunguru Muthwani Ward, Mavoko Sub-County, the County Executive Committee member in charge of lands, housing, urban development, roads and transport, that is Nathaniel Nganga, who represented area Governor Wavinya Ndeti, warned against encroachment on road reserves and areas that are deemed to be riparian. Residents are urged to seek legal approval before building to prevent future disasters.
Flooding is happening in people's houses. It is because of encroachment to waterways and people building on waterways. And so we are going to, as a county government of Machakos, to enforce the regulations, the law. We are going to bring down all structures that have been erected and waterways. We have mapped them, and I have officially issued instructions to the officers in this ward and in this sub-county to enforce the waterways and clear everybody who is on the way, pull down the walls, pull down the houses.
Elsewhere, residents of Burat Ward in Isiolo County have petitioned the county government to set aside some 6 million shillings in the 2026-2027 budget to facilitate their community land registration and adjudication. Led by their community land management committee leadership, the residents called on Governor Abdi Ibrahim Guyo's administration to set aside additional funds to capacity building to enable them to effectively participate in the land registration process. A member of the CLMC, Joyce, says that the registration of the community land will help curb encroachment and land grabbing in the vast ward, which has for decades fueled fear and enmity between residents and the soldiers.
Sema irejistiwe kwa sababu tunaogopa ama tunahofia kwamba kuna encroachment ambayo watu wanaweza kuencroach kwa ile shamba, kuna mabwenyenye na hata pia bado hatuko na imani na hata wale washikadau wengine katika kaunti ama katika serikali ya Kenya. Na vile vile sisi kama vile tulikuwa na msukosuko ya ardhi, tulikuwa tumepata hiyo tumerejestra hiyo ardhi, sisi tutakuwa wenyeji wa hiyo ardhi na tutakuwa tuko na benefit nyingi sana katika hiyo ardhi.
Kwa sasa kumbona msaada ya watu wa Brad kufaidika community land registration na demarcation ni CEO akaunti yetu ambayo ni Governor Guyo.
As the enhanced continuous voter registration exercise officially came to an end, Mandera County reported close to 18,000 new voters during the exercise. According to IBC officials, the county achieved nearly 70% of its target of 24,755 new voters ahead of the 2027 general election. Mandera IBC County Elections Manager Adan Harar said the registration process was largely peaceful and successful, with no major incidents reported across the county.
Tried all our best together with all stakeholders to make sure that this exercise runs smoothly. We want to appreciate the support we have received from various stakeholders in this county and in the country at large. Security officers have been of great help to this exercise by making sure that the safety and the security of all our personnel and registration materials are guaranteed.
Also, residents of Riyadh Congo village in Kachieng Ward, Nyatike Sub-County will now receive healthcare services at their doorstep following the official reopening of Riyadh Congo dispensary. The residents for decades have been trekking to a nearly sorry town for healthcare services. The facility, which is the 22nd dispensary launched under the county administration led by Governor Chilo Ayako, marks a significant milestone in improving access to healthcare in the region. The lack of a nearby health facility had placed lives at risk, particularly among vulnerable groups.
Tulikuwa tuna shida kwa sababu sana kwa wamama kama walikuwa wanataka kuzaa, tulikuwa tunatembea mbali. Na wamama wengi sana walikuwa wanazaa nyumbani. Hata kama tulikuwa tunafanya referral, walikuwa hawezi kufika hospitali. Ni lazima watazaa njiani ama wazae kwa nyumba.
Our staff have also had difficulties in running these facilities. So my administration, when we took over office, we started by fixing the physical infrastructure that had been run down. They were not in good shape. We continued by ensuring that water supply and energy supply, electricity supply would be available in those facilities.
On the political front, leaders allied to the United Democratic Alliance UDA in Laikipia have vowed to intensify efforts to popularize the party across the county despite growing opposition from emerging political rivals. The leaders, who are eyeing various elective seats in next year's general election, say they will traverse all 5 sub-counties to strengthen the party's presence. The leaders are led by County Assembly Speaker Lantano Nabala and women leader Jennifer Koinanete urged the supporters to openly declare their affiliation with UDA and defended the government's development record despite increasing competition in the region following the entry of a DCP party.
Wale viongozi wa UDA, wale ambao hawana uoga ya kusema sisi ni UDA, tutaamuka kutembea mpaka kila mtu, kwa sababu watu wanapenda president wetu.
Sisi tutasimama kwa serikali na wale watu ambao wako upinzani. Sisi tunasema kwamba wacha kila mtu ause sera kulingana na ile kazi amefanya, sio matuzi. Matuzi haiwezi leta kura. Sisi ndio tuko na kura, tutapiga kura.
Hakuna mtu haoni affordable housing. Iko hapa na Nyuki, iko Nyahururu. Kila mtu atapata nyumba ambaye atakuja kuweza kuitafuta na apate, kwa sababu ziko. Hakuna mtu haoni mabarabara, hakuna mtu haoni mambo ya elimu, hakuna mtu haoni mambo ya afya. Ndio tumeamua ni UDA wakati huu na ni UDA wakati ujao, na wote tumeamua.
And now let's get down to business. Our keen focus, especially on our interview portion this afternoon, is on innovation, especially on a key sector that is gaining traction within Kenya and Africa at large. That is the gaming sector, which has gained popularity given due to the technological age we're living in, especially amongst the youth. Who better to talk to than the founder and chief executive officer of Africa Group, Jeremiah Mangi. Good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And first of all, tell us about what it entails in the digital gaming sector, because not so many people are aware. There's an age bracket that are not aware of the gaming system. Just tell us about that and how the sector is faring on, first of all.
Yeah, so thank you so much. As you heard, my name is Jeremiah Maangi. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at iGaming Africa and the President and Africa Group. And it's a pleasure, first of all, to be speaking to you today. And gaming is a wider term. Gaming is divided into several other subdivisions. For example, we have iGaming, which falls under gaming, and that comprises of sports betting, gambling, casino, etc. But also, you know, there are things like esports, there are things like cryptocurrency, technologies that are also linked to this. There is esports. All these things can form part of the wider gaming term. So for this discussion today, we will, of course, be tackling the iGaming space more.
And how is the iGaming sector currently operating?
Yeah, so it is a wider growing population, especially within the African continent. We start from Kenya, we go to South Africa, we go to Nigeria. All these markets are now having a very huge gaming community, and that is why it is now becoming a talk of the town, and so many people are actually interested to learn about this. So when you look at the African continent, for example, South Africa is leading when it comes to iGaming. You go to Nigeria, it's second, but there is a disparity when it comes to the population vis-a-vis the income. So when you look at the income, Nigeria is leading. But when you look at the population, I mean, of the people who are betting, then Nigeria is actually leading. So there is a very huge difference, and Kenya is third in this space. So it becomes a very important discussion that we have this topic today.
And in terms of such a critical sector such as that, of course there are regulations, especially here in our country. Are those regulations stifling the growth of the sector or even helping it better?
No, I would say it's actually helping, because when you don't regulate the market, or illegal operations come in, and this has already been seen in so many other countries that have said, okay, let's lock down this gaming space and leave it to be like a gray market. And what happens? Illegal operators come into the business and they take advantage of that market, because you are not monitoring them. Then they can do anything they want, and then you leave people vulnerable. So regulation actually becomes like the backbone of the gaming industry, I could say.
And in terms of technology, given that, of course, gaming requires technology at the end of the day, how are you coping with the transformation of that particular sector, especially when it comes to technology, with the advent of AI? How are you coping with those transformation and trends within the technology to ensure that the sector continues to grow?
Yeah, technology is another item that you cannot put aside, because the industry relies completely on technology. If you turn off technology today, gaming will not work. I'll give you a practical example. You know, esports, which is now a big talk of town here in Kenya, let's say, and Africa in general. There are so many competitions that are being organized around esports, and these games are being played on machines. So can you imagine we wouldn't be having esports if machines did not or were not there. So this then forms an integral part of the discussion around gaming when you connect it with technology, because say iGaming, for example, all these platforms run on platforms. All the games that people are playing are developed through softwares. So it is like, without technology, there is nothing that can happen within the ecosystem of gaming.
And we know this is a sector that, of course, generates a lot of money, but it needs to also attract a lot of money. So are investors paying a keen eye on the African gaming system?
Yeah, and more than ever, this is a time that we are seeing more and more of them coming to this market, trying to learn about it, because the African player is a very different player from what we see in the developed ecosystems. Talk of Europe and Asia and Americas. All those players are very, very different from the African players, and that is why you see so many of the companies that are in the gaming space investing a lot of time, energy and resources in coming down to the ground physically to come and study, do research and understand how the market operates. And as we speak right now, I've seen a very huge number of businesses that have opened up in the gaming space in South Africa. I'm hopeful that we will see the same in Kenya and the other neighboring countries. But there is a very huge number of investors that are very keen on this market. And that is why you take note that with the event that is happening very soon in Nairobi, Kenya, there are so many of them that will be in attendance. I know we will talk about that later on in the show.
Yes. And also in terms of, you were talking earlier on about regulations, that it is truly helping the gaming sector. But how do we ensure that we promote responsible gaming?
Yeah, so number one, you regulate. You regulate. And even when you talk of responsible gaming, you cannot implement it if you have illegal operations. You have to regulate, know who is operating in the market, and then after you have regulated properly, then you can now enforce responsible gaming. You cannot enforce it because when you have not yet regulated the industry, you have to give people licenses, you have to ensure they are compliant, you have to ensure that they are following their laws, so that once you go to them to tell them, we have noticed that the market that the players in the market are affected negatively by this, can we do this and that, then they will be compliant. Otherwise, if you don't regulate, then you leave the players to the hands of, I would call them illegal operators who would take advantage, and we will be losing everybody. So it's very important.
And also we know that the gaming culture is way big in Europe, in North America, in Asia, in other parts of the world. How can we ensure that we make Kenya and Africa a gaming innovation hub?
Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking for that. I was actually waiting for that question.
Yes.
So the first thing, I will go back to regulation. Like, I'll tell you why. If you don't regulate properly, what happens? Illegal operators come in. And what do? They take away the revenue from people who are paying taxes, from operators who are trading legally. And what happens? Then that means the revenue that these companies are generating and taking it out there is going out there illegally. And now you have these on the other side, people who are operating legally, but now they are being put at par with people who are operating illegally. They are not paying for licensing, they are not paying for any taxes. Therefore, it becomes very, very difficult for there to be a balance. Even that one who was acting legally says, I would rather act illegally because we cannot compete with people who are acting illegally. Therefore, to make Kenya like the go-to place for gaming, number one, we need to ensure that our policies are strict. And actually, another thing is that we don't change these policies very, very frequently. That will be my recommendation, because what happens when we are making so many rampant changes from time to time, it affects the investors who have put their money here. For example, today there is a tax. When the regime changes, there is a new tax. And when another person comes in, is another tax. I would like us to follow examples of developed democracies whereby once a policy has been set up, it will remain that way until even 10, 20 years. So this is one of the steps that we would do to make sure that Kenya is actually going to be the next frontier in the gaming industry.
Aside from, of course, you're talking about piracy, which you have seen even in the film sector and other places. What are some of the other outstanding challenges currently facing the sector?
Of course, challenges will be, I will say, I will go back to my previous response, that we are seeing so many changes that happen over a very short period of time. And it's a good thing, because this is one of the things that we have created a panel to discuss about. We are inviting regulators from across Africa, and actually some of them are actually coming from outside of the world, so I mean of Africa, so that we can kind of do something we call benchmarking to see how we can improve. And I'm happy that the Kenyan government is very, very keen to collaborate with us, because they are going to be at the event that we are organizing at the beginning of next month, because it is through such dialogue and discussions that we would get a good result.
Maybe just give us a teaser, aside from the summit that is coming next month. What other countries can we emulate to ensure that we better regulate that sector?
Yeah, I would say one of the countries that we would need to look at very keenly is a country like South Africa. It is the biggest economy that I would say when it comes to revenue that is being generated from gaming in Africa. But also, when you look at how they are regulating the space, is that they are very keen on compliance. It's not easy for an illegal operator to get into the market. And even those who are operating legally, it is not easy to enter, because you have to spend a lot for you to be able to penetrate that market. So I think we should not make it extremely or very, very easy for anybody who wants to come in to come in. We should check our policies and regulations when it comes to licensing, to ensure that when you are coming in, proper scrutiny is done on you, even background checks to ensure where you're getting the money that you are investing in, and also having limits to ensure that when you are coming into the market, you are following the laws that are set on ground.
Maybe in just 30 seconds, given that we're winding up this particular interview, in 30 seconds, what should Kenyans look out for, especially the people in the gaming culture, for that particular summit that you're planning for next month?
Yeah, so I want to say that the iGaming Africa Summit is going to be an opportunity, especially for the young people to come and meet business investors who can give them opportunities to explore the markets. Also, another avenue for regulators from different aspects of the industry to come and learn, listen to what people from developed democracies in terms of gaming have to say. And also, it is an opportunity for anybody who is in learning colleges to come and know especially what the gaming industry is all about, because this is one of the biggest industries in the world when it comes to technology. So we want to really see that it's creating opportunities for the youth, especially in the continent Africa.
Thank you so much. And Jeremiah, thank you for your time this afternoon. That is Jeremiah Mangi, a founder and Chief Executive Officer of Africa Group. And of course, that is that particular summit, and you will have to wait and see what happens next month. You've just heard from Jeremiah. If you want to make your way there, just make it and see if you can get opportunities from that particular sector. To more business news now, there is a need for clear guidelines across Africa to unlock cross-border scaling of digital products and improve data flow efficiency. Oracle Kenya Managing Director David Bunei says despite Africa's potential to leverage emerging technologies to grow, trade in digital services remains restricted. Bunei made the remarks at the Africa Connected Summit 2026 that discussed ways to harmonize regulations and expand Africa's digital market.
Also here to discuss and deliberate around cross-border policies that can help Kenya to be more competitive. These are areas like cross-border data flows. That means information can flow from one country to the other and be accepted. There are other conversations that are happening around trade in technology and improving how people of Africa can interact using technology safely.
Now, counties are teaming up with the development partners and innovators to boost their digital skills among staff and community leaders. Elgeyo Marakwet Governor Wesley Rotich says collaborations with innovators are helping learners access a faster, more comprehensive training, especially for those in remote areas.
Artificial intelligence-powered learning has accelerated in recent months in Kenya. Now, focus has shifted from basic digital literacy to advanced skills.
And therefore, as we train, it's also another way to make this thing move faster. AI model actually becomes our catalyst to move digital skills much faster.
In conjunction with development partners in a program dubbed UK Digital Access, digital skills training has benefited 2,800 people in 2 months across 9 counties.
It has worked in my county, and last week we graduated 450 TOT. I also again did another thing. I said now that I have done online training, I am going further and looking for TOTs.
Now you might wonder, how does that actually work? So the learners get invited and they register, and then they just get the app on their phone. And not this fancy new phone that I may have, or my colleagues around the table may have, but very old 2020 Android phones.
So when you're talking about digital skilling at scale, basically we are talking about reach. And we're also talking about quality, and we are talking about economic pathways. No one is going to be left behind.
The counties of Nairobi, Nyeri and Kiambu are the top counties in Kenya in computer and internet usage. Alan Oko, Lunchtime News.
Now, there is need for African countries to adopt a uniform mobile telecommunication roaming tariff to enhance connectivity and support cross-border business. Safaricom Chief Executive Officer Peter Ndegwa is rallying the continent to adopt the Europe model, which allows subscribers to enjoy one roaming tariff regardless of the country of travel. Ndegwa said harmonizing taxes is key to enhance one digital market.
When people travel into neighboring countries, do they pay their home tariff or do they have a roaming? In Europe, for example, you have one tariff regardless of where you're traveling. So there was a conversation, what should the African countries do together with the private sector players to facilitate lower cost when customers are going across. So it's dealing with the issues that get in the way of collaboration. So we can develop the best policies within country, but until we connect, we will not be successful. But also the second thing, which is very important, take advantage of homegrown platforms like M-Pesa. The public sector can support and the different countries can support is to remove some of the friction that you see, whether that is currency, the whole focus around tax when you go cross-border. How do you, for example, enable identification? So digital ID will become important. So you need to think about the building blocks, and Kenya is already really leading the way.
Now, a secretariat for the Connected Africa Summit is being set up, with Kenya hosting the inaugural chair of a new secretariat. Information Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary William Kabogo says the secretariat will foster collaboration and accelerate digital integration across Africa.
Africa's digital market is projected to more than double from $30.24 billion in 2025 to $72 billion by 2031. However, the growth has been fragmented, and Africa still faces hurdles such as severe infrastructure gaps, high costs, and a massive digital skills shortage. Kenya has agreed to host the Connected Africa Secretariat, which is expected to support collaborations and accelerate digital integration in Africa.
The Secretariat shall support the work of the summit, including the preparation and transmission of communiques and engagements with continental institutions, while the coordination of the implementation of resolutions adopted by this summit shall be undertaken by the African Union.
Kenya is rooting for formation of a single ICT market for seamless cross-border payments, identification and deployment of critical infrastructure.
The regional economic communities, the Smart Africa Alliance, and other continental institutions. And we request the African Union Commission to recognize the Connected Africa Summit as a continental ministerial platform feeding into the relevant organs of the African Union.
This community to the African Union for consideration and adoption by its relevant organs.
The Connected Africa Summit, now in its 15th year, has been credited with driving ICT growth, skills development, and private sector partnerships. Alan Oko, Lunchtime News.
Now, here's the latest in the world of sports. 22 participants took part in the Kenya Sports Shooting Federation training, which was led by Hashim, president of the Africa Shooting Sports Federation. The three-day training was aimed at elevating shooting sports in Kenya, fostering professionalism among officials, and preparing the country to compete more effectively at regional and international levels.
Standards and strengthening the sports technical capacity within the country. The Kenya Shooting Federation embarked on equipping judges with essential skills and up-to-date knowledge.
The experience has been a way of learning and knowing, especially now that we've been in this sport, we are getting to know the mistakes that we do.
It is a milestone forward because it pushes us
more to the international scene of shooting.
The Federation aims to ensure competitions are conducted fairly, professionally, and in line with international best practices.
Noted during our meetings that we have no qualified judges in Kenya for rifle and for pistols. And so we organized with the International Sports Shooting Federation to assist us to train judges.
The training was led by Hashim, the president of the Africa Shooting Sports Federation, who emphasized the importance of capacity building in officiating, noting that strong technical officials are the backbone of any successful sport.
We have a plan to implement the new rules for each country. So Kenya has a priority to ask to hold this course, and therefore we got approval from ISSF. And this approval will let them a jury international, and this is very good for Kenya and for Africa.
Frederick Muki for Lunchtime News.
And of course, the results of the Champions League yesterday ended it at a draw at the Metropolitano. Atletico against Arsenal. Of course, they will be coming to the Emirates next week. Also, PSG will be travelling to Germany to face Bayern at the Allianz Arena. And of course, the English Premier League as well as other leagues are back this weekend. That is all we had for you at this hour. Do join us in our subsequent bulletins at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Caroline Jeroga. Good afternoon for now.
Jina yako haiko karatasi ya title deed. Mimi mwenyewe ndio jina yangu iko hapo.
Na kwa nini unasema mimi ati ndio ninakula hiyo pesa na si mimi nakula hiyo pesa?
Sasa wewe ulikuwa pale kama kuchukua kama mjukuu wangu uchunge hiyo nyumba. Unaona? Ukipesa ikitoka uniletee. Lakini nyinyi ndio wale walagai mko Nairobi.
Sisi na kina nani? Sisi na kina nani?
Wale rafiki zako mnatembeana wao.
Marafiki kani uliwaona?
Sijawaona lakini wako. Naona Nairobi mnachukua nyumba za wamama, mnakula pesa zao, amnunuli dawa, mfanyi chochote.
Nakuuliza wewe, tuseme umeenda nyumbani, uandike mtu hapo kasi ya kwenda kuletea pesa na kutumia pesa. Kuna makosa gani?
Hiyo ni kuandika. Wewe hajaandikwa.
Unachuaje?
Wewe alimpatiwa jumba, hata hivi mama amehurumia wewe, amempatia wewe jumba akae hapo bila kulipa kodi.
Ulichuaje? Mimi sijaandikwa.
Uko na hiyo
sio ila inakuashia nini?
Hakuna pilipili hapa tunakola. Ile ni kweli makoa, ile tabia ulifanya ni mbaya.
Huyo mama ni mama yako.
Si lazima kwa mama yangu ndio.
Si lazima kwa mama yako, si ndio?
Niliingilia kati kwa sababu umefanya ukatili.